You're listening to I Heard It on the 806, a podcast by John Bowers. When a young couple at John's church experienced a horrible tragedy, the whole church began to pray for the husband's healing. After many years of prayers, it became clear that God's will was not to heal him, but to show his provision in a completely different way. Here's John sharing this encouraging story of how God provides for us in the midst of our hardship.
Roger and Susie Anderson were a dear couple in Christ Center Church, and Roger was in a terrible car accident and was paralyzed. And in that time of being paralyzed, in the rehabilitation process of approximately 2 years, he had become sick with cancer. Wonderful attitude, great provider for his family. He had a daughter, just precious, precious little family. And it was heartbreaking as I would continue to stand with Roger and take him with me. We had to, of course, he had to be in a wheelchair because he was paralyzed, but we were able to do things together, have coffee together, minister occasionally together, and go places. But I'd ask Roger on different occasions as his cancer had taken over his body and that there was a short time to live. From when I first met him until he actually passed and went on to be with the Lord was about 3 years. And in that time of asking God to heal him and praying that God would heal him, praying that God would heal his paralysis, there was just this constant peace that just kept coming. And I expected it to be the healing touch of God. And Roger one day says, you know, John, I really believe God's calling me home. And I have peace that God's going to take care of Susie and my little girl. And I just believe, John, that God's telling me to prepare to go home. Boy, I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to receive the fact that God was going to take him home when he's such a young, vibrant guy. And so he said, John, I'm in trouble financially. He said, I don't have life insurance. I don't have health insurance. And so I'm really in trouble with trying to pay the doctor bills and trying to take care of the house payments. And if I die, which I believe God has spoken to me that I'm going to be going home, I don't know what's going to happen to Susie. And so I said to him, with just, I believe, the unction of the Lord, don't worry about it. The church will take care of her. So he died. At his funeral, Susie, about 3 weeks later, came into the office crying. And she said, I don't know what I'm going to do. She said, the bills stack up. Roger always paid the bills. Roger took care of all of our finances. But she said, we didn't have any health insurance. We didn't have any life insurance. And we were just living paycheck by paycheck. And now that he's gone, there's no paycheck. And John, I don't know what I'm going to do. Pastor, I'm lost. And I said, well, I told Roger in the hospital one day that the church would take care of you. So would you bring all your bills and go get them, bring every one of them to my office tomorrow and just present them to me, and I'll start working and we'll see what God's going to do. The next day, she brought in a stack of bills that was pretty overwhelming. And I thought to myself, well, God, here we go. It's me and you. And I believe the church is a church that's supposed to take care of the family. So, God, let's get to it. I started opening up the bills. And I came across an envelope that had life insurance on it. I thought that was strange. I thought it was probably an advertisement. I opened it up, and there was a policy number. There was a notice of a bill to be paid, a yearly bill to be paid to keep the life insurance active. I couldn't believe my eyes. I called the life insurance number that was on the paper, the bill. They answered. I gave them the number that was associated with the account. And they said, yes, this is Roger Anderson's life insurance policy. And I said, well, I'm his pastor and he passed away. And I'm just checking to see what we need to do to receive the funds now. They said, well, we need a death certificate. And please get that to us right away, and we will send you the check. I still couldn't believe it. Roger didn't have life insurance. Susie knew it. Roger knew it. So I knew they made a mistake. So I said, okay, I've got to really be honest with you. I never knew that Roger had a life insurance policy. They said, well, the truth is he's had it, and they gave me the date that he signed it, bought it. He's had it for all these years, and he's never missed a payment. Folks, when something like this happens, it makes you stop in your tracks and say, oh God, could this possibly be possible? The check was sent to Susie. It covered all of her bills. It was enough to pay off her house, and she had something like $20,000 left over. God took care of everything that she brought to me. And when God in that hospital room that day said the church will take care of it, oh, how faithful he was. He took care of it. The church simply received it, but he took care of it. The church received it and gave the money appropriately to Susie and her little girl. And they live today in the Junction City area rejoicing over that glorious day where their finances were all taken care of.
In Philippians 4:19, Paul writes, "And my God will supply all your needs according to his riches in glory in Christ Jesus." When the Lord decided it was time to take Roger home, he promised to also take care of his family, a promise that he kept in a miraculous way. When we find ourselves in similar situations, it's easy to lose hope. But Jesus always has the answer. No matter what we're going through, God is always faithful to supply all of our needs. You've been listening to the I Heard It on the 806 podcast with John Bowers. Make sure you don't miss an episode by subscribing wherever you listen. To learn more about John Bowers, this podcast, and to find out how you can get a copy of his new book, I Heard It on the 806, go to ihearditon806.com. This has been an Avenue 153 production.